Hey there. So I was fucking bored on this Saturday evening and feeling kind of weird. I think it has something to do with a Cancer full moon or something. I heard that anyway. I used to have a moon that was Cancer. But anyway, I thought I'd do something different, something a little off the cuff, and that's going to be another Plasma Reads. And so recently I purchased this big fat bastard, 900 pages by the beloved David Icke. David really helped wake me up around 2008, 2009. I owe that fucking, I owe that limey a lot. Let's just say he's such a blessing to humanity. But so I asked my guys to help me intuitively, kind of like a fucking tarot pull, just to open the book randomly and wherever it's at, that's what they want me to read. So I opened it to here, and it's the Saturn Moon Matrix. A large majority of this book is about that, but let's just read an excerpt, and when we get fucking sick of it, we'll stop, all right? Okay, so here we go. This is page 148. It is important to keep in mind that what we see as Saturn is only a holographic expression of waveform information fields. And, as with everything else, it has consciousness. So when Satanists and others worship Saturn as a god, they are not worshiping a dead planet, sun, quote unquote, but the conscious entity that is Saturn, an expression of what the Gnostics called the demiurge. So he's not wrong. If you haven't noticed, a lot of banking and corporations and Satanists, Saturnists, the cult of Saturn, they worship Saturn, and they direct humanity's worship to Saturn. They use this through symbolism, through money, the 3D matrix, all of this. But if you know anything about astrology, you know about the Father Time and Saturn and its astrological influences on humans. It would make sense that if they're trying to create a matrix where they siphon chi or money off the humans, that they'd want to get humans to worship and magnify Saturn's astrological influences because it has to do with control. It's not wholly an evil negative planet. In fact, it's very essential for the solar system or the soul system of humanity. It's like a big school, we came here for a reason. But anyway, I'll try not to rant in between the reading. So, it's an expression of what the Gnostics called the demiurge. Ancient accounts describe a very different solar system to the one we see today, with Saturn as once the predominant Earth sun. Researcher David Talbot made a long and intensive study of the global Saturn myths before he came involved in the electric universe movement. And I got into the electric universe movement pretty heavily around 2011. So I know exactly who he's talking about, David Talbot, and the theory that Saturn, like basically planets weren't um, stationary or fixed. They are able to move around positions, and Saturn essentially used to be the main sun for uh, Earth. Um, and it would make sense because it's a gas giant and it can ignite like Jupiter and burn like a star. But anyway, here I go ranting again. David Talbot made a long and intensive study of the global Saturn myths before he became involved in the electric universe movement, and there is no question from the information that he documents that Saturn dominated the ancient sky and was a dominant feature in ancient symbolism and worship. See his book, The Saturn Myth. I don't necessarily agree with every last conclusion, but it is a very impressive and brilliant work. Descriptions of Saturn make no mention of rings before the great cataclysmic events that rearranged the solar system and dispatched Saturn to the location some 800 million miles or more from Earth. This seems to be a long distance, but in terms of energetic connection and communication, it is the same principle as two particles communicating instantly over billions of miles. And not only that, but Saturn's rings, I don't know what spectrum they use to detect it, but astrophysicists detected that the rings go throughout the entire solar system, not just the visible rings. There's like different vibrating frequencies of rings that go out all the way and encompass the entire solar system. And so If you consider cymatics and energy and all that, it's pretty trippy. This seems to be long distance, but in terms of energetic connection and communication, it is the same principle as the two particles communicating instantly over billions of miles. Time and space are holographic illusions, and the communication takes place beyond the holographic world in the realm of the unified field. The rings of Saturn are relatively very recent, so where did they come from? Saturn was converted to become a broadcaster of the Matrix hack, and the rings are a manifestation of this. Yes, I know it sounds crazy, but stay with me because it's not. The frequency veil between our reality and the archontic realm is pretty thin anyway, but there are certain locations in the Earth's magnetic field where it is very thin indeed. Many of these locations of reality interconnection are the result of being targeted by the repetitive rituals of Satanists. Their impact on the energy field thins out the frequency differences to create a sort of vibrational gateway through which archontic entities can slip into this reality during the rituals. Former Satanists and those forced to participate by Satanists have described this to me. Saturn takes this process a whole lot further. It is an interfrequency gateway that allows archontic entities to move between their reality and ours, and it is a means, and there will be others through which hack information can be projected from the archontic realm into ours. This information is broadcast through Saturn, hence the rings, on the frequency band that can be received by human DNA, which has specifically tuned to this frequency during the genetic manipulation that I described earlier on page 170. So, if you guys haven't heard of this book, check it out. It's called The Ringmakers of Saturn, and it's basically this NASA scientist that I think it was the Cassini space probe, but he captured images of gigantic, fucking massive UFOs creating the rings with like basically ejecting them out the back, going around fucking shitting out this. I don't know if it was like crystalline or what kind of matter they were ejecting, but they were essentially creating the rings. The fucking thing is like a giant. God damn it. See, the Archons are hacking my video. But so it's like when you drop a ripple in the pond and the waves go out, the energy transfers out and keeps rippling out. So the fucking thing is cymatically, frequency wise, putting out a broadcast of a three-dimensional cube matrix. And humans being so powerful with their consciousness fucking are directing Saturn's energies onto Earth by worshiping Saturnic things like the control structure and money and Satanism and the symbols, and it's really fucking trippy. So there's a famous quote by J.P. Morgan, the insanely powerful banker from the 19th century, who said, "Millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do." And the people in control, they are completely aware of the real science, and they're directing it in their favor to control humanity and to parasite off of us. But any fucking way, Saturn is in short a gigantic interreality gateway and broadcast. I ran out of fucking memory. I'm such a novice with this shit, man. One day I'll get a mic and I'll fucking edit the shit out of everything all perfectly. And yeah, fucking right. I don't care enough to do that. But anyway, at least with me, it's always no bullshit. So, where were we? Um, let's say Saturn's in short a gigantic inner reality gateway and broadcasting unit, and the rings are a sound waveform information system. It was converted to be so by the archontic realm and became a focus of worship for archontic religions, secret societies, and Satanism or Saturnism. So yeah, Satanism is essentially Saturnism. The word Satan is originally a Hebrew term, which just means the opposite of like normal. Uh, Essentially, the Hebrews would use the word Satan as if like a brother took another brother to court. Oh, that's Satan. You know what I mean? Like it's not some like horned devil figure. That's where it came from. It's a Hebrew word, originally S A apostrophe Satan. It's pronounced Satan. And then through the Abrahamic religions, it ended up turning into Satan and all this crazy shit. But it's also related to Saturn. And there's all kinds of crazy synchronicities with that too, like in Tolkien's work with Sauron, the Lord of the Rings, Saturn, the Lord of the Rings. So it's fucking trippy, man. All this shit is deeply embedded in our subconscious mind. But anyway, it was converted to be so by the Archontic realm and became a focus of worship for Archontic religions, secret societies, or in Satanism or Saturnism. Saturn was known by the ancients as the Fallen One and is symbolized by the black-clad Darth Vader in the Star Wars movies and in the Star Wars movies of insider George Lucas. So if why would it be the Fallen One? Maybe because if it used to be a sun burning and then it just extinguished out, then I guess you could call it a Fallen One. But it is symbolized by the black-clad Darth Vader in the Star Wars movies of insider George Lucas. Darth Vader was a Jedi. The Jedi? Jedi Knight called Anakin Skywalker who fell to the dark side of the Force. Interestingly, the Anakin with only an M replacing the N were said to be a race of biblical giants living in Palestine and ancestors of the Philistines and the giant Goliath. The sun that we know, like all suns, is broadcasting the universal waveform energy field that becomes the decoded holographic universe. And that's totally true. So the information comes through the sun and it interacts with our DNA, which is essentially our DNA is an electromagnetic transceiver. The helix. It's just bringing in information, putting out information constantly, just like your breath. You're breathing it in, breathing it out, like in tandem with the creator, just fucking, and the energy just pulses and flows and breathes. And I guess if you come in and you take out one star that resonates a certain way and it's connected to other stars that resonate a certain way, and then you beam another star, I mean, you could totally create a new matrix or a new holographic reality. So even then, our sun is also a bad copy sun and not the original. Okay. Nothing in our hacked reality is original except the expanded awareness of those who can see through the program. Saturn is the demiurge sun and a means of broadcasting the bad copy to distort, twist, and invert human perception. Therefore, Dark Sun, Black Sun, and Dark Lord, the names given to Saturn by the ancients today's secret societies and Satanists, are very appropriate. Saturn has often been symbolized through the centuries as an eye, hence the all-seeing eye used as major symbol of the satanic control system. Sauron, man, he remember became the eye too. So it's yeah, it's and then there's that eye on the south pole of Saturn. I'm sure y'all have seen this shit before. So I mean, it's got a hexagonal cube on the north pole, and it's got a fucking Vesica Pisces eye on the bottom on the south pole. It's fucking trippy. So yeah, I suggest you fucking. There's so much more, and yes, look here. He talks about the Ringmakers of Saturn book right here, and those giant UFOs. There's this picture right there of one of the dude. The fucking thing was like the size of a moon, ejecting this material into the rings. So this is an endless rabbit hole. Saturn. It's one of the major ones. I feel like you got to hit up though when you're on the journey. Man, this is so important. There's so much in here. Maybe I'll read some more of it at a later time. But if you ever see that symbol, it's a Saturn symbolism. It also looks like the hammer and sickle of the commies, and there's a reason for that. See, the Saturnists, they run fascism, communism, all that shit. They created all of it. But Father Time, Kronos, Freemasonry, symbolism. Yeah, I could go on and on about this shit, man. It's an endless rabbit hole. Even the cross is, if you fold up a cross, it turns into a fucking cube. Like, it's just deeply embedded in the Abrahamic religions and all kinds of shit, dude. But I hope y'all having a fucking beautiful, holy shit, Saturn's Day evening. That's trippy synchronicity. Stay up, goddamn. I love y'all.